What is up, everyone? We are back. Part two WNBA season preview. We apologize collectively. We're all behind on laundry, so we're in the same outfits as yesterday. I'm sorry. This is not representative of, generally what we'd like to be presenting to you, but it's just the reality. We are here with Nekias Duncan and Steve Jones, the best in the business, breaking down all things WNBA. And today we got the Western Conference. If you didn't listen yesterday, Eastern Conference preview, many takeaways, such as the Washington Mystics. There's a lot there. The sun is not setting in Connecticut. Really, a lot of gems that you got to go check out. But it's time to talk some Western Conference. This conference is stacked. Conferences don't even really matter in the WNBA, but they do a little bit for Commissioner's Cup. And yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. How's it going?
It's doing all right, Happy to be here, fresh and so clean, etc. Also, conference always matters. We got to set up the Commissioners Cup. It's big stuff. It's big time
True.
stuff.
Very true.
Happy to talk hoops with y'all once again.
I do think that the Commissioner's Cup, until we get this new CBA, is something that we shouldn't make light of because there's a lot of money based on the percentage of salary that these
hmm
players are currently at because of how underpaid they are. But so for this year, the Commissioner's Cup matters a bunch. Let's start with the reigning runners-up. I don't know, that doesn't sound great, but
That
The
sounded shady.
shade,
That
the
sounded shady from
shade.
Liberty beat reporter Miles.
Look at New
That's gonna
York
get clipped.
media here. Oh my goodness.
let's start with the Western Conference champions. It wasn't, but it's not even seeded by conference. No, it doesn't. That doesn't even work either. The Minnesota Lynx, the dynastic Minnesota Lynx, who under Cheryl Reeve have won title after title after title, and coming off of last season, they did not actually make too many changes, which was somewhat surprising to me because I think not just in the W, but across sports, we often see teams that fall just short rebuild to try to counter the team that bested them. And I think that what this says to me is that Minnesota was very, very confident and feels like they didn't need to, they can run it back because they didn't need to change anything to beat the Liberty last year. That I think is going to be their inspiration and their motivation. And I'm sure that we'll never hear about Game Five again. But what did you guys make of this offseason of inaction mostly? And do you have any concerns about what this squad looks like running it back?
I would say to your point, like it's just a testament to their internal belief. Like they don't feel like last year wasn't anything that they couldn't replicate. Like their defense was elite for pretty much that entire season, and like pretty much everyone is back. And so you would think that foundation should be there. And I think just the overall concept of turning good shots into great shots, moving the ball, inverting their reactions, like I don't think they feel the need to, engage in a major shift or to bring in like a major, I don't think they had to do a major swing. Like my question heading into the offseason, and it kind of still remains, is okay, so where does Diamond Miller fit into this? Because she was just mostly hurting and just not in the rotation. And so if Minnesota was going to make a move, that was where my mind went. Like, do they just use Diamond to get whatever they feel like they may need? More shooting, more self-creation, more deep, whatever it is. And they didn't do that. I think Cheryl Reeve talked a little bit in training camp about like the plans for Diamond Miller once she's healthy and how she can slide in. And so I'm curious to see that part. But no, like they're just so good and sound on both ends of the floor. Like I understand them saying no. Uh, Game five happened. We do not agree with the results, and we can leave that there for the sake of time. And we think we can get there again. Like that feels very much like a Cheryl Reeve thing to do.
I think for me, I wasn't too surprised. I think like the most Minnesota Lynx thing ever would be just adding Carly Samuelson to this team. I think the big thing for them was identifying pieces that fit into what they do well. I think that's why last year worked so well. And so, okay, we have this machine, we have this system. We just need people who can do multiple things. Can you drive the basketball? Can you shoot? Can you make plays? Can you defend? And I think it's more for them, let's enhance this machine and try and make it better, then we need to pivot to something else. I mean, they were what 30-10 last year, so I mean, pretty good results. I am intrigued to see how it looks. I think Nekias asked Cheryl this earlier. What does it look like with the team, a league that's ready for you? You remember it's one thing to be the runner-up, but when Liberty lost to the Aces, everyone was looking at Liberty like, "Hey, not y'all." And so all these teams, we look at the Lynx like, "Hey, y'all are not doing that again." So how do they handle defenses being more prepared for their offense? How they handle maybe having to find their rhythm defensively? Like I'm intrigued to see how the Lynx start the season, but they're very good as far as what they do, the kind of shots they can generate, the defense they can play, and so I don't blame them for saying, you know what, let's use this as fuel. Let's get back to where we were, and you're gonna have to see us again.
They feel like a very modern offense that is not selling out to be we talked so much and we're going to talk more about three-pointers, right? And they move the ball so well and then defend on a string on the other end while being somewhat undersized compared to the contenders that they'll be coming up against when they are trying to make it to the mountaintop. So is that something that you think that teams are going to be able to effectively scheme against, or is it just that the Lynx are kind of have perfected what they're trying to do with their roster construction?
I'll take this one, Nikias. I don't think they can scheme against it, but it's just we can sustain a little bit more than maybe we had before. We're a little bit more ready for your drives from anyone, the flare screens that come out of nowhere. It's just an overall awareness. I think when you have a movement type of team, and Minnesota's very good at it, everyone can make a play out there with the way they space the floor. I think that's where Jessica Shepard being back is huge because it's like, well, that's another driver that we have to deal with. And there's just an unpredictable nature to how Minnesota flows. But you can kind of coach your team up a little bit more and be like, hey, you know what we have to deal with? You know what we're up against tonight? We got to be physical in the bodies, da-da-da-da-da. So it's less that we can perfect the scheme and more can we just kind of bog them down in a way we couldn't last year.
Just to quickly jump in, Steve got me back for JC Sheldon on the Eastern Conference preview because I was so excited to talk about Jessica Shepard.
Yeah, bud.
He got there first. Well played, well played, Jones. But no, in all seriousness, because I didn't answer your initial question, Miles, I would say, like, bounce off of Steve's point, teams are going to be more prepared for them. So what do they do? And I do think in general, like the margins they may be a little bit smaller than people are anticipating just because they did shoot as well as they did last year. And their defense was as elite as it was, despite I think they were 11th in defensive rebound rate out of 12 teams, and they were 10th in overall rebound rate. And one of my concerns heading into, first round matchup with, I think, Phoenix, and I was like, okay, what does this look like with BG? Like, does Phoenix find some margins there with offensive rebounding or just in general size? And Fee said, actually, I'm just going to average like 30 or whatever it is. And it just does not matter. And they just blitzed them. And then heading into the Liberty series, it's like, well, this would absolutely be the team that could use their size on the interior and win the rebounding battle, et cetera, et cetera. And so if you do get more of, if they're not the best 3-point shooting team and one of like the 5 or 6 best 3-point shooting teams in W history, and they're just good, what does that look like? And do teams hammer them on the glass more? And like, if those margins shrink, where does that go?
Are you doubling down on the offensive rebounding point?
Is
this a double down?
Maybe. It's something that I'm keeping an eye on. You know what I mean? We're gonna see. We're gonna see. Like, in all seriousness, like it is to be that good defensively while also being that low on the rebounding list. Like that's not generally a thing that happens across the NBA or the W for that matter. So like, again, jokes aside, I do wonder like how sustainable that model is.
Take it out the net. That's why it's sustainable. You can't guard us.
Hey, I'm just
we're an action away from you being in rotation and not having a good time. That is the Minnesota Lynx.
Yeah. Really. Also, as someone who's been tweeting MVP for years, this might be the year. Like I'm bracing for it. Asia's won every other year for the last 5 years now, so it's like that has to be where you start the discussion. But it's hard with voter fatigue, everything to go back to back. We talked about Caitlin, but Nafisa feels just primed in every way. She's already put it all together. It's not like she hasn't put it all together. She just is who she is as an entirely complete dominant player. And who knows, things might line up narratively for her this year. Steve, I'm glad you mentioned Carly Samuelson. Perfect Lynx addition. Just couldn't be better. Will fit right in. And then Jessica, whenever 2018 Notre Dame comes into the picture, you know I'm gonna shout them out. So shout out to Jess Shepard, which leads us perfectly into a team with another member of the 2018 Notre Dame national title team, Jackie Young and the Las Vegas Aces. Uh, so much here. I think where I start, you have to start with Asia, obviously, and just shout out to Asia for another phenomenal. One of my favorite things about being a WNBA fan and an Asia Wilson fan is like every offseason, all these other players, like they go overseas play, they play an unrivaled, they're like all this stuff. And Asia's just like, I'm gonna drop a New York Times bestseller. I'm gonna drop a shoe line. Like I'm just gonna like, her candles. She's just always got a bazillion things going on while she's in the gym working on her game. So shout out to the legend, Asia Wilson. For me, the biggest pivot point with this team is is Jackie Young back to the Jackie Young that we all want to see from a health perspective, which she was not after the Olympics last year, which she was not at Unrivaled, but which I'm cautiously optimistic from what I'm hearing in Zooms, in media availabilities, what I'm seeing in the preseason. It seems like she's starting to feel like herself, which is really exciting. And Chelsea Gray, who had a devastating injury in the 2023 finals, worked back last year, was not herself, couldn't really get back to that level. And then in Unrivaled, totally found it. And does that mean that she'll be able to find it in the 5-on-5 context? Who knows? But it's a really damn good sign. And if you're going to bet on anyone, you bet on Chelsea Gray. And then lastly, this team finally, for the first time in years, in my opinion, seemed to nail some of their moves around the margins. I'm really excited about their draft. Actually, like looking for shooting is a major positive. What a concept. And there's just a few players who I think could tilt things in their favor a little bit if they're able to get consistent run. Dana Evans, Tiffany Mitchell. So what is the pivot point for you guys that will determine whether this team, Chelsea Gray said it, Becky Hammon has said it, they're in starvation mode this year. Last year they were hungry, they're starving now. And it's like, okay, people can say that, whatever motivation is, like you get a lot of cliches around that. I sense that they really mean it. Like you can just kind of feel that. This is the type of team that really means that when they say it. And that's exciting for me from a fan perspective. What's the pivot point between them being able to win 3 and 4 years and sliding back to what happened last year, which was Asia had a historic season, third MVP, shattered league records, and there just wasn't quite enough around her to get them back to the mountaintop?
I think to your point, it is about health and it's about the others. Like I think with the Asia MVP season last year, like obviously incredible, but like part of the incredible nature of it was how necessary it was. And I think Asia is as good as she is because she is capable of putting up 27 and 11. The fact that she had to average 27 and 11 with her minute load and with her defensive workload, that's not the space that the Aces want to operate in. And so having a healthier Chelsea Gray, having a healthier Jackie Young, having a Jewel Lloyd with a chip on her shoulder who's ready to continue defending and ready to be back to knocking down shots, like I feel better about the Aces. I feel better about this context for Asia because in Asia that doesn't have to do as much, obviously still going to be dominant on both ends of the floor, but an Asia that doesn't have to have an absurd usage rate, an Asia that doesn't have to take 6, 7, 8 shots in a row for certain stretches, etc. You're now getting a better version of her defensively. And she was still in the depoy hunt last year. And so if she doesn't have to put out as many fires as she had to last year, if she doesn't have to assume so much of the mid-range usage that she had last season, once we hit the playoffs, what does that look like for her? What does that look like for Chelsea, Jackie, et cetera? And then zooming out, what does that look like for the rest of the league if you are getting a motivated and healthier version of the Aces?
I've been telling Nekias for months that the Aces are terrifying because I have heard the Becky Hammon interviews, every Asia Wilson interview, the Chelsea Gray interviews, and then Chelsea Gray was super healthy and unrivaled, and then came out even doing it in preseason. It's like, hey, is anyone paying attention to this team right here? Like, I hear what you're saying, but like they are angry, like very mad. And so I was like, okay, cool. Chelsea Gray being healthy to me is the number one thing because there's not much you can do with a healthy Chelsea Gray as far as, not just the passing ability, but being able to make the shots that, hey, it doesn't really matter what you're doing defensively. That just increases the pressure. And then with their preseason, I've liked the flow offensively from them. I've liked the movement. I like to have they've been more random. Moving Asia across the board is not new, but hey, you don't know if it's going to be a down screen. You don't know what the elbow catch means. They have talent. So, yeah, if Asia catches at the elbow and then it's Jewel Lloyd and Jackie Young in a split, that's going to cause them a little bit of pressure. And you flow into something else, like they felt more intentional with their offense as far as being a little bit more random and moving the ball, which combined with their talent makes it tough. So I think overall they have a stronger identity and a stronger will to kind of enforce that on both ends. That's been the feeling that I've gotten because it doesn't feel like we're just talented. Not that that was always their MO, but it feels like, no, we're going to use this talent to kind of open things up and hurt you on both ends of the floor. I think defensively, I like the activity. I think there's been a little bit more nuance. So if they can nail that, like I said it last year when everyone was like, hey, what's going on with the Aces? I'm like, hey, if the defense just kind of gets up a little bit, they'll be fine. They kind of got there until the Liberty said, hey, dude, we do not want to deal with y'all anymore. But I think the league should be very ready for the Las Vegas Aces to try and make a very loud statement this season.
I guess we'll go behind the curtain a little bit, but I was recording a podcast earlier today. I went on Christina Williams' pod, friend of the pod, friend of all of ours, and she had asked who was my dark horse to win it all this year. And I was like, this feels really silly to say, but it's the Las Vegas Aces, which is like they won 2 out of the last 3 titles. But people very quickly moved off of that. And it made absolutely no sense that you are any given night, you have the best player in the world stepping on the court, and now healthy pieces around her that will take, like you guys have said, some of that weight off of her. And it's like how quickly we forget that one of the most dominant teams we've ever seen is now back to doing it. So I've had an interesting journey this offseason with the swap for Kelsey Plum and Jewel Lloyd. And I don't know if it's just because I am just starving for basketball and I have too much time with my thoughts, and that's why I'm changing my outlook. But at the beginning, I was like, okay, I think that losing Kelsey, obviously, for everything that she's meant to that organization, is hard to replicate. But you bring in Jewel, who I think can give you a little bit of that, more of that tenacity defensively, and maybe not the same at this point in her career, the same spark plug that Kelsey Plum, where she would just take over games at some point, just be on another level, game breaker in transition. But it felt like a kind of parallel move for me. And then spending way too much time not watching basketball, but instead on stat pages and whatever, and just diving into just how tough last year was for a multitude of reasons for Jewel. And then you start to take into the back half of her prime and the age and the fact that she's an undersized guard. Is there concern that this won't be just a smooth substitution from you guys?
I would wager I probably have a little bit more concern than Steve does, though obviously I'm gonna let him answer. But to your point, like starting with the defense is where like some of my concerns were quelled. Maybe not even concerns, but just questions were quelled. 'Cause I think just from a pure talent perspective, like I think they are similar, they're in the same tier in terms of talent.
Yeah.
Like there are some things that Jewel is better at, there are some things that Kelsey's better at, but at their peaks, they're around the same level for me. Um, it just feels like, I guess, completing the comparison, it feels like the floor is a little bit higher for Kelsey. And that's where, for me, it felt a little bit more comfortable. Like, even if she isn't knocking down shots, I do know teams are going to treat her a certain way. I know what kind of drives I'm going to get from her. I know what kind of defensive effort we're going to get from her. Like, the size concerns are going to be there, but I just kind of know what I'm getting. With Jewel, it could be 33 points on 15 shots. It could also be 11 points on 15 shots. And like that is where I was a little concerned heading in when the move was made. Like, okay, I see how this can hit. There are also a lot of avenues to where this doesn't, and I don't know how I feel about that portion. But if the defense is just going to be better, healthier Jackie, of course, but if Jewel represents an upgrade there, and those two can take on tough perimeter assignments, Chelsea's, I would imagine, is going to be defending one of the forwards. Like the Aces have transitioned more to having her on a bigger player. She can hold up on switches. She's really good at communicating on the back line, etc. And you have Asia, you have Kia Stokes, or whenever you sub in, yada yada yada. If the defensive foundation is just better, I am not going to lie on this podcast and say it doesn't matter what the offense looks like because of course it does, and it does to me. But I'm less concerned about it if the defensive foundation is so much better that the Aces are just able to flow more offensively. Because Jewel can slot in as an off-ball threat and relocate and get to the rim and attack closeouts, etc. Jewel can also just score in a vacuum. We don't have it tonight. We have 13 points through the first 9 minutes of this game. I will do the job while we're in some of our staggered lineups. I will just score 8 points real quick. So the fact you have that dynamic, I feel better about the defense. So I guess to answer the question literally, like, yes, there's a little bit of angst, but I feel better about it now than I did when the move was first announced.
Is the angst in the room with us?
I mean, you tell me,
There's angst in the waiting room, Miles. You got to admit the angst. You got.
For me, Jewel Lloyd brings a lot to the table for the Aces, and I think very specifically a very motivated Jewel Lloyd. As I imagined, she would like to have a much different year than last year. And so Nekias went on the defense. I won't add too much to that. I think offensively it's a really good context in the sense that this has already been established, and we're adding different things. So the movement things help. She can initiate offense. Like there's enough for her to do within the context of the starting lineup where I'm not as concerned with, oh, Jewel's taking that shot. That's part of the Aces lore to a degree. Like, hey, how are you going to guard all of these people? And there are going to be certain nights where maybe Jewel's numbers call it a little bit more because how are teams going to spread their perimeter defenders across the Aces? It's not a comfortable feeling. You can say it, and then you get to the last person. It's like, oh, well, yeah, that's X on Jewel Lloyd. I don't think we would have done that last year. So there's that dynamic, I think, for the Aces as a benefit. And then Nekias mentioned the second unit lineups where there's going to be a little bit more wiggle room at times to kind of do more of the Jewel Lloyd thing. So I think the fact that she's motivated and this team is motivated at the same time gives me the hope that this will be a little bit more smooth than people anticipate. Like I think people got to remember how good Jewel Lloyd is. And so being able to be in a scenario where A, I can generate my shots easier if I need to, and B, others can generate shots for me, as opposed to me having to, hey, pick and roll. You know what I mean? Like having to carry so much weight offensively. I just think it's kind of the best timing for this move to happen. And that's not any shade towards Kelsey Plum, who is incredible, and I will make Nekias mad later about that. But if it's going to be that, this is probably the best year for it.
I also think this is going to sound hyperbolic, but I also think that the Aces have had over the last 4 to 5 years the strongest locker room in sports. So if there's going to be a player coming in off a down year, but also a player that very much fits into the culture of that locker room, already has a lot of those relationships, and will find that support and the just be yourself, be Jewel Lloyd, and that is success for us. It's this locker room. So I think that will also, it is not analytics at all, but I think that will also go a long way.
There's so much to be said for shaking it up when certain situations get stale for an individual just based on real life and what has happened. And that happened for Kelsey and for Jewel at the same time last year. And they both suffered, their worst seasons in a while. Jewel, especially with the numbers, it was concerning. But you think about how we really aren't that far removed from prime Jewel Lloyd being absolutely unstoppable. And it gets me thinking about the collective shot making on this new version of the Aces. The idea in a playoff context, if everyone is healthy, if everyone is right, of Asia Wilson, Chelsea Gray, and Jewel Lloyd from a pure shot making perspective. And then you add Jackie Young, who, by the way, added so much to her offensive bag from step backs, pull up threes, like all these different things that she just continued to add. It's staggering to think about. I'm really excited and hopeful that they play a little small with Asia at the 5. I'd love to see the core 4 plus Aaliyah Nye. I think that the shooting of that would be really exciting. I think that Chelsea and Jackie are strong enough to guard opposing 4s. And like, frankly, it's almost one of those things where like could you trick a team into thinking, okay, we've got our four in the post on Chelsea Gray or on Jackie Young. That's a mismatch. We got to attack it. Well, if you're a good offense in general, like maybe that's actually a win for the Aces. And then conversely on the other side, you've just got the dream spacing surrounding the best player in the world. And then I guess lastly to Miles' point, just like, I'm gonna continue to talk about Asia. It's like the tone that she sets from that locker room perspective. It's all like stems from her and her greatness as a teammate as well as a player. You've seen it with Jackie Young. I've written about it. Like just the way in which those two paired together have been able to instill confidence in Jackie and get that to be like a consistent part of her game and not something that comes and goes. Really special. So I'm very hopeful for Jewel with the 2025 Aces.
All right, Steve, we've been boxed out. This has become an Aces podcast. I'm sure this has happened to you before, but we have to move on. We have to move on to Jewel's former squad, the Seattle Storm. I am pretty high on this team, and this is another team that people have seemingly forgot about, although they have like kept outside of Jewel, maintained what their core was, and a core that is very strong. They're returning Skylar Diggins, Neko Gumake, Ezzy Magbagor. They've got a full season of Gabby Williams, which is super exciting. Dominique Malunga is going to dunk on Rakia Jackson at some point, so we have that to look forward to. My question here is, can this be the best defense in the league? And I know we did talk about the Lynx, but this is a very, very disruptive. It starts with that backcourt, but then their interior defense is fantastic. But Gabby on the wing and then Skylar, it's just there are a lot of really disruptive pieces on this squad. And is who is comfortable? Who's going to be comfortable against this team?
I don't think many teams are going to be. I guess to directly answer your question, like, yes, I think this could be the best defense in the W this year. Like, the broader question becomes how much of the offense is going to come along for that to, like, quote unquote, matter within the contender conversation. Because I do have some questions about what the offense is going to look like, which is tough for me specifically because I like so many of their players. As Steve in particular knows, I was banging the drum on the NECA all W / why are we not talking more about her in the all W first team conversation. Big Skylar fan, great year last season. I love Ezzy. Steve like, keep going, go ahead. But I will say, like, Seattle worked to add some shooting. I don't know if they completely solved that problem. And as good and as skilled as NECA is and Ezzy is, and we'll see what the minute load is going to look like for either Lee Yuru or Dominique Malonga, but as skilled as they are and as long as they're going to be, etc., I worry that we get to a game in like July and a team is just like, yeah, so we're just going to switch and or go under everything that you're doing. What are you going to do now? And it's Skylar driving into a crowd, or it's NECA who shoots well again from three, but she's only taking 2 or 3 of them. And it's just like, okay, what is the ceiling of this group? If the offense is good enough, like they can crash the party in the contender zone. And I love this defense and I love a lot of the personnel, but the offense is where I'm like, I see how it can work. You have to thread a very tight needle to make this work.
All right, Miles and Owen, I'm going to peel the curtain back. So this right here is where Steve makes a mental bookmark. So when Nekias excitedly tweets about the Storm in 2 to 3 business weeks, I'm going to get mad about it. And I have to tell him why I'm mad. This is the exact moment right here. Just want you to know that. Peeling the curtain back. So what I would say is, in the Eastern Conference preview, we talked about how the sun has not set yet, right? Well, I think some of the while the sun is not set, there's clouds because the Storm may have just taken the sun throne as far as we're going to guard the heck out of you and we're going to figure it out on the other end. Like, we're just going to mash you and be that defensive group. And, hey, do we have everything we need offensively? Not really. Are you going to have fun guarding us? Not really, because you're not going to score either. That's what my mindset is with the Storm's ceiling as far as how good that defense could be. Because if you tell me, I don't know when and how they'll get to it, but if there's a defensive lineup of, let's just say, Skylar, Alicia Clark, Gabby Williams, Nneka Ogwumike, and Ezzy Mabagor, how much fun are you going to have trying to score on that group? And that's where it's like, okay, if they have that as their identity and they could find that consistency, that's going to give them wiggle room offensively. And I think Skylar Diggins is very motivated. Like, I don't know the rankings that I have with the revenge tours. Like, the Aces are up there, the Lynx are up there, and then it's just Skylar Diggins third. And so she's going to be operating and playing at a high level. I really wish that they were healthier as far as like Jordan Horston and Katie Lou, being able to see them. And because I think that would have given them just a really nice lineup versatility where you don't know if they're going to go small. How small is that small lineup? We can go double big. We can do different things. So that it felt like they had tried to address the wing room shooting type beat. And unfortunately, they're kind of back in the same spot, but they've got size. Like, you're going to have to deal with them. And so the post-ups they can run, I think that can sustain them. I think having multiple bigs and going pick and roll, like, I really liked Lee Yaru's game was fun in the preseason. I'll tell you that much. But they still have Ezzy. They have a lot they can bring to the table. It's just, can they find the consistency defensively? I think that will be the difference maker for the Seattle Storm this year. If they're that defense, they're going to be up there, knocking on the door, 4-5, in my opinion. If they're having to figure it out on that end a little bit, that's when they're going to have to try and fight with some of the other teams.
It does strike me.
Go ahead.
We're in mid-season.
Look at the synergy. That's what I'm talking about.
I was just going to say that they are a team that could create some offense for themselves off of that defense because of the pressure that they can bring to the point of attack and because of just how good their bigs are in space too. So hopefully some of those offensive questions can be answered by 15 turnovers on opening night against a Mercury team that's still learning each other's names. Like that's the kind of thing that could maybe jumpstart their season and kind of, I think they did that last year, right? Didn't they have like back-to-back? They played the Lynx or something like that, and they both had like 18 turnovers in the opening night or something like that.
Yeah.
So maybe that's where they can create that identity from the jump.
It also strikes me that this team was a 4 seed with like a locker room that had issues. And I'm not going to get into that. Like, we know it is what it is at this point, but they achieved the 4 seed with Jewel Lloyd's worst season in ages and people not getting along. And it's a testament to everyone's professionalism that happened. It's a testament to Noel Quinn, I think. I'm excited to see like how it can look when everyone is vibing, so to speak. And then this as we've kind of touched on here, like, this is the type of team that, like, if you have a sore ankle or something, if your pinky's hurting, like, maybe just like, I need 48 hours to figure it out. Like, I'm gonna sit this one out. I don't need to go against this lineup defensively. All right, moving on. Yeah, you got something, Nekias?
Yeah, just two quick things. Like, as you talked about the locker room being a little bit cleaner, that's something that Lexi Brown, friend of your program, has talked a lot about how just the energy in that locker room and the belief in that locker room just seems to pop. So if we're talking good vibes, it seems that Seattle has them at least entering the season. Yep. And then secondly, to the Seattle offense point, like, I know Steve is laughing because just their front court in general is just the ideal Nekias bit of players that I like. But like we saw a little bit last year, they inverted some stuff for Ezzy. They inverted some stuff for Nekias sometimes too. They love going to, hey, Skylar, let's run a pick and roll from 14 feet and let's see what teams do about it. And so I'd imagine they continue to sprinkle that stuff in at a decent volume. But again, I just want to see like where they land, because I know I'm going to love this defense. I just need them to score.
It's going to be so good. Also, it's a fun place to be as the number 2 overall pick and someone with a ceiling that everyone agrees is like could not be higher. To have her coming off the bench with a group that defensively, as we've said many times here in the last 10 minutes, is going to be so good, so strong. Like, you can see how Malonga fits with every different lineup combination. There's no pressure on her to start and play 30 minutes a game from the jump and have to prop things up herself. You can see how she looks with either big. You can give her minutes at the 5. Like, there's so many options here, and it's just the perfect place for her to be entering into, which I couldn't be more excited for. All right, we're moving on to the Phoenix Mercury, a team that had one of the most intriguing off seasons. Kalia Copper remains, and everything around her is different and very exciting. Newly formed big 3, so to speak. Satu Sabali, Alyssa Thomas, another person who might be on that revenge tour list. Like Alyssa Thomas doesn't need much in the way of motivation to get her going. And here she is on a new squad. Obviously Kaz on the team, so I'm super excited to watch them. But I think just generally the question that everyone has about this squad is like we know what the big three is capable of. Is the depth going to be able to hold up on the back end to get this team where it wants to go?
Yeah, that's the biggest question for me is as reductive as it may be. I just want to see what the non-big three players look like, what lineup combinations they land on. Like recently wrote about it, but I'm excited to see what more minutes for Natasha Mack is going to look like because she is just one of my favorite screeners, one of the more underrated defenders that we have in the league. Like her plus AT is just going to be incredibly rude when they are on the floor together. So I'm excited about that portion. But I guess to narrow it down a little bit more, just what the complementary guard play is going to look like, because naturally Satu's going to have the ball in her hands. She's going to be moved around the board. Same thing for Kalia Copper. AT, we know, is going to run a lot of offense. Like part of why you don't have to have a traditional point guard is because you have Alyssa Thomas. But you would like to have a guard that can unlock Satu as a screener, that can unlock more of the pick and roll stuff for AT, just to take some of the playmaking burden off. And so I wonder who steps up in that regard because of all the guards that they have right now, it feels like there is a very obvious strength and a very obvious drawback to all of them. And like they recently started Sevgi Uzun. Like I like the defense, I like the playmaking. I also don't think teams are going to care about her when she's spaced. So it's just like, ooh, if it's her plus AT on the floor together, what's that going to look like when they're not, when either one of those players are involved in action? Get Celeste is a similar thing. I love her defense, but I don't think teams are going to defend her like that either. So I'm just like, can they find the balance? Is it just going to end up being Sammy Whitcomb? And then do teams say, okay, cool. Ka can defend, Satu can defend, AT can defend. Sammy, you can too, but you're smaller than them. Please come here. And does that become a thing? And this is also Sammy coming off of her worst 3-point shooting season. So it's just like, I want to feel better about the group to be fully in on the Mercury. Go ahead, Steve.
Give me your belief level in the Phoenix Mercury right now.
It's probably like a 5.
Be honest with me.
Probably a 5.
I will say, we mentioned this a little bit earlier, but we didn't fully address it. Lying is allowed on the Pull Up Miles podcast.
Oh, word? Oh, in that case, probably about an 8. You know, I just want to see the offense come together. But no, in all seriousness, it's a 5 because I am a huge AT fan. And like I do believe AT plus collective size of Ka and Satu plus Natasha back. Like I think the defense is going to be better than a lot of people anticipate. And I do think, to borrow from Steve really quickly, like that should give them some more wiggle room to figure out some of the offense though. Because just in some of the early preseason dealings, like we got the Kai usage, we got Satu, a lot of pick and roll for her, and she, a continuation from last year plus Olympic play. If you go under, she is just pulling. Like it's very much. I'll pander to you a little bit, Owen. This reminds me of the Jackie Young arc where she hit the moment where it's like, oh, she's just pulling against all these unders. Oh, she's taking threes in transition now. Oh, wait. This isn't a shot she's hesitating on anymore. Like it's similar vibes with Satu right now. And AT, like naturally she'll bring it up. They'll invert things for her. They'll run lower angle pick and rolls for her. Like they have stuff, but it's not all fluid yet. And again, based on who's surrounding them, there are help points for defenses. So if the defense is good, and I anticipate it is going to be pretty good, that gives them some wiggle room to figure some of the offense stuff out. And then maybe my faith level goes from 5 to 7, from 7 to 8, and we'll see. But I'm starting at a 5 right now.
Yeah, Steve, you go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, on.
I just as the number one Ka fan, like her ability in transition with a big who can pass and who can push the pace. We saw it with Candace Parker, and Candace wasn't like bringing the ball up in the way that Alyssa Thomas can from a speed and power perspective. But like I just think back to the 2021 Sky and the leak outs and the way in which you get caught into space in transition. And the combination of her and AT in that regard is like my number one most excited element of what this Mercury team could look like.
I think it's going to take time to see what the best lineups are. Obviously you want Ka to be healthy, but I think that her being healthy unlocks a lot of the things because if you have the big 3 plus Sammy, you have glue and you have people that are going to force help. And so now it's just who's the best fifth. Is it Mac and having AT at the 4 and Satu at the 3 technically and just playing that way? Or is it kind of 18 to 5? Like, how do they sprinkle in the different lineups? Do they have enough people to kind of make them pop? But I think the key for them is going to be versatility. And so, how are you building the boat to use the skill set of your three players who can be used in different ways? Like, you can use Satu off screens. You can have her run pick and roll. You can have her post. AT, obviously, we know is a hub and a machine. And Ka can be used in a whole bunch of different ways. So they have things they can do, I think, to capitalize offensively. To Nekias' point, they do have to do it. And we don't, it's a little bit of sight unseen. But I think they have smart basketball players around them who, what you may lack as far as talent in some people's eyes, they're going to know their role. And the system is pretty clear. So there is a little bit of trade-off as far as, okay, maybe they're not guarding me, but I know where the shots are. And we are going to have people that are going to force some sort of help at some point. So I think there's the dynamic portion for me that's like, I'm intrigued. I don't know what it means. I won't tell you that. But I think I could see where they're trying to get to.
Yeah, very, very quickly, because I'm not sure if we're about to move on yet. Do we want to address the elephant in the room? Do we want to just have the 3-point conversation?
I was gonna bring it up. I was like, it might be time. Like, since we're going deep on everything, let's just talk about it. Where do you want
to be completely honest with y'all, because y'all are all my pals. Like, I'm just kind of worn out and annoyed by the conversation already, as it pertains to this, because it's just the Nate Tibbetts conversation, and it's threes and the depth of the mid range and stuff. I'm just like, I don't think it's as drastic as people are saying. Like, they want to spread the floor. They naturally want to optimize the shot profile. There's not going to be a zero tolerance mid range thing, because you quite literally cannot do that, first and foremost. But two of your three best players are comfortable operating in the middle of the floor in some capacity. It would just be coaching malpractice to tell those players, no, you are not allowed to access that area of the floor unless you are driving all the way to the basket. Even if that's what quote unquote math might say. Like, that's just not what it's going to be. Like, I don't think it has to be this binary conversation to where we want to minimize some of these longer twos or some of these lower quality shots to turn it into, you are only allowed to take 2 shots ever, and this is how we're going to play because math is skill. I don't think anyone said that. I don't think anyone argued that. We don't have to do that with Phoenix. We don't have to do that in general. It just blows my mind that that's where a lot of that goes.
Where is this rant coming from?
From the heart, Steve. From the heart. I just want people to be normal about the Phoenix Mercury. I think they're gonna be okay.
So you went from a belief level of 5 to please be normal about the Phoenix Mercury in 3 minutes. I'm confused. Did I miss something? Did someone yell? They'd only have so many 3-point shooters anyways. I don't think that's going to be that huge of a thing. It'll be all right.
It should be, but man, I think I just have PTSD from like the NBA portion of the 3-point rise.
Yeah.
And everyone was yelling at Mike D'Antoni, etc. And
I was just gonna say this too. Like, I so agree with you. I'm glad you said it, because I'm the exact same, and I sound like a grandpa on the podcast like every single episode. So it's like, here's another avenue for me to get a get off my lawn take. But like, you just invoked D'Antoni and the Rockets. Guess who was shooting a lot of mid-range during the playoffs? Chris Paul on those teams. Like, we're Knicks fans. Guess who's making every mid-range 14-foot fadeaway? Mikal Bridges. It's great. Like, it's I don't know. I agree. And like, Ka's gonna shoot mid-range, and that's good. Like, in a playoff context, that's good. And what's also good is that she shoots a lot of threes too, and she's upped her 3-point percentage. And when she's healthy, she's capable of hitting 40% from 3. It doesn't have to be the binary, as you said. So very glad you said it. Retweet.
And this is outside of the context of the Mercury, but look at what Asia Wilson does from the elbow. Look at what Brianna Stewart does in the mid-range. Look at the Nafisa Collier turnarounds. Like, that's what the contenders are building around. So yeah, I'm just adding to the chorus.
Folks, pals, friends, this is the first mid-range rant that I did not initiate in my life, I think. So I'm breathtaking. I will add one Mercury point. I wonder how the defense comes together, because I'm very intrigued about teams like having to deal with Alyssa Thomas and Satu on the weak side and how they could build the board that way. Nekias did not mention Carolina Brown. I'm intrigued to see how she hits people this season. I think it's gonna be a bounce back year. That's all.
Well, I just wanted to say to the defense that I think that there's a I don't think this is a measurable metric, but they might defend harder than anybody else when you look at who they're deploying out there in terms of who everybody wants to hit the ground. That's going to be out there. And especially when you start talking about putting in Celeste or putting in Sammy alongside the big three and Natasha Mack, like they're going to be every 50-50 ball is a 60-40 ball. And then you get to the point where you're like, AT Satu, please stop, Ka, please stop diving on the floor. We're going to get to that point eventually, but I think that gives them a little bit of wiggle room on some of the how the defense plays out because they're just going to be out there trying really, really hard.
Can I ask one question to make Nekias mad real quick?
Of course, you don't even need to ask.
Okay. So thought bubble just popped in my brain. So let's say Phoenix is very good. Which is going to make you more annoyed? Alyssa Thomas getting an extreme defensive player of the year push or Alyssa Thomas getting the MVP push because Phoenix is good?
Ooh. See, when you know someone for a long time, because Steve, I have been so incredibly annoyed by the conversation or lack thereof around Alyssa Thomas. If it takes her moving to an entirely different team and her doing the exact same stuff, and people be like, man, she sure is good. And it just, and here's the thing that's going to bother me the most. To like, one, she's just really good. So she would just earn like Defensive Player of the Year or MVP consideration, right? What's going to annoy me is that if the Alyssa Thomas noise is loud, like non-Phoenix media division, it's just going to be as a foil to the star player that's getting MVP noise that they just don't want to hear about anymore. Like it's going to be AT because you don't want Fee or Asia or Caitlyn to get it. It's not even going to be a pro AT push. And that might be the thing that pushes me over the edge the most because she's really good. She's been good for a long time and people need to recognize how good she is.
They're going to this season.
They should have done it a long time. The tape's been there.
Until she splits those votes with Satu and then sorry.
Yeah.
This better not be a sort by points per game Phoenix Mercury MVP rep year. I tell you what, with all due respect, but come on.
Oh, an added layer. You're
Wow.
gonna be more mad if Ka gets the credit, aren't you?
Oh man, we're gonna get the Kyle 1.7 steals per game season. Man, that defense sure did get better. The effort from Kyle, I'm like, man, she's already shown she can be good. Yeah.
Let's move on. Satu Sabali just left the Dallas Wings, who are the next team on our arbitrary rankings here. Not rankings, but lineup here. I think that it's been an interesting offseason for Dallas, and I mean that in the best way. I think that this is a team that landed the first pick in a very funny way, having two middling chances combined to get into out of that lottery with the best overall chance, and that earned them Paige Beckers, who is excited to be there and is loving Dallas so far from everything she said, from all of the social media pictures we've seen from random people meeting her in Costco and in liquor stores and just out on the street. Paige is everywhere, which is not at all a surprise for any media that was at WNBA All-Star last summer, where you could not turn a corner without running into Paige Beckers because she was just literally everywhere. But she is on a brand new look Dallas Wings roster. And it's an interesting time in the league as a whole, but also in Dallas because they're going to have some big decisions to make at the end of the season, just like everyone else does, with the upcoming impending new CBA. So whose team is this going to be in 2025? Because what they do know is that Paige will be here long term. Is this season about figuring out building around her, or is it about slotting her in to try to get back to where they were 2 years ago and have that be the foundation that they try to build off of? Weird question. Sorry. Didn't know where it was going.
No, no, no. I like it. Like, I think I lean more towards, like, I think there is eventually going to be this transition point, providing good health, all the obvious caveats, that Paige is going to be the eventual face of the Dallas Wings. But because Arike is still incredibly good, and because their skill sets complement each other as well as they should, at least in theory, like, this very much feels like a partnership to me. And really, like, you can add Dejanay to the mix too if you want to go. Maybe not big three because Dejanay isn't like obvious all W player, at least not right now. But at the very least, that foundation of Paige who can do a little bit of everything, Arike who has quietly grown as a playmaker in addition to the scoring chops, defensive effort is perked up as well, and then Dejanay who is just if not the best perimeter defender in basketball, she's certainly on the very, 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 very short list. Like I think that is a trio that you can build the boat around, and this year is about obviously acclimating Paige but figuring out what front court makes the most sense around these three. And that's why I like that they've added not just multiple bigs or just have multiple bigs, but they've added multiple types of bigs to figure out. Okay, we still have Tierra McCowan. How does she fit in? We still have Maddie Segrist. Injury cut her season short last year, but we know she can score all over the place. How does she slot alongside these three? We have Maisha Hines Allen, who's going to screen all over the place and can do a little bit of everything offensively. Will the usage perk up? What is that going to look like? We added Melissa Smith. How is she going to slide in? And so, like, I love that they kind of have this trial period here with the front court to kind of figure out, okay, what is this? What does this look like? And I think that's where you get into next season and who you protect and all that good stuff, and you kind of build the boat from there.
I mean, for me, I think Dallas is just trying to, it's a pivot, but it's also okay. We have something. Let's see how good this is, and see if we need what the next step is around maybe these two. Like, to use an analogy, like let's say Arika is the manager. She can now go home at 1 p.m. You know what I mean? Paige is close. You know what I mean? Paige got it. We good. I can take a couple of days off, here and there. We feel good about the partnership. I think for me with Dallas, I'm intrigued to see what the defense does. I'm surprised Nekias didn't go there. And he mentioned the multiple bigs, but I like the fact that you have a Maisha Hines Allen who can do different things defensively and can switch at times or be active. I like that Melissa Smith, it's not just automatically a drop. She might be at the level sometimes. So, okay, we have a little bit of versatility. I like that Maddie Segrist comes in and, like, I'll throw a switch out there. That's fine. And I'll rotate on the weak side. So that by itself could lend Nekias to not call them the worst defense of all time this year. And thank God. But I like the fact that they have that kind of versatility to be able to work through things. And offensively, I think it's going to take a little bit of time. But one, I like the movement for Arike to get her off dribble handoffs, to get her downhill in a different way. I'm intrigued to see how much they can use Dejanay, especially in transition. Is that growth from Connecticut going to carry over to Dallas to where we can use her in different ways? They just have, saying they have stuff feels rude, but they have potential to grow. And so I think like, to me, it's really going to be on the bigs. I think Maddie had a really good year last year and could be even better this year, but they have like a more clear focus as far as what they want to do and what they want to try and accomplish.
I saw you pop that hand up for a second, Caius. Is that just a
Oh,
rebuttal to your
oh,
take from 2024?
it's just a minor correction that the Dallas Wings were mere percentage points away from having the worst defensive rating in WNBA history. I just wanted to have that on wax. They were not the worst defense.
It's on wax in several places.
I'm just saying they weren't the worst, but they almost were. But they should be much better to the overall point. Please continue.
There was a lot, too much, some would say, most people would say, too much discourse about the adjustment last year for a guard from college to pro. And that was kind of beaten into the ground, picked up again, and then beaten back into the ground. But I do want to bring it back for a second, because we're seeing that we have not heard much about that with Paige this year. And she's coming off of, I think they're ridiculous. It was like 53, 42, 89 splits, I think, were what she was coming off of. And also 3.5 assist to turnover ratio, which was top percentile in college as a senior. What challenges do you foresee for her? Because a lot of it is not about do you know how to play basketball, but it's about the speed, it's about the physicality, it's about switching principles. And how much do you kind of foresee her on with a brand new system that's also everyone else learning? So it's not like she's being slotted in to a system where Arike can be like, no, this is what you need to do in this scenario because she's learning it too.
Mhm.
How much of a learning curve do you kind of project for Paige in this first month, first half of the season before she really gets into her own?
Like I would imagine it's going to be at least in a literal sense. Like I imagine it's going to be a pretty quick one from her. Just by all accounts, she seems to just be incredibly smart basketball wise. And so whatever the concepts are, like I think she's going to be fine on that front. For me, it's more so going to be on court translation and like the physicality. Like the play that immediately came to my mind as you were saying this was in that Aces game where she had her moment with Jackie Young, and it was very clear. Jackie is stronger than Paige Beckers. Like I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but she kind of is. And so like there are gonna be those moments, but like I don't anticipate Paige like shying away from the content. Like this is something that she talked about. I think it was either post game of that game or like during the Wings media day. And it's like one of her adjustments she talked about having to court through is like I have a tendency to get into the paint, but I'm like taking short pull-ups, etc. I got to be willing to embrace that physicality and embrace that contact, get a little bit deeper in the paint and stuff like that. And so like that may be where some of the adjustment period comes from, where if we are a month into the season and we pull up Paige's basketball reference page and we go down to the shooting or whatever. It's like, oh wow, only 8.7% of her shot attempts will come inside of 3 feet. What's going on here? And then by the end of the year, it's like 12 or 13. It's like, okay, this still ain't great, but it's better. Like that's one of the markers I'll be checking out to see like how deep are those drives going to be. What is the foul drawing looking like? How is she dealing with that kind of contact?
I think for me, it's probably just drives, physicality, aggression, and then the pressure that teams may put on her and navigating screens or the crowds that she may see in pick and roll, different coverages. I think this is one of those seasons where the start will look different than the end, and you can
Hmm.
kind of track the progress as she continues to get better. I think weak side defense probably when to help, when to close out. A couple times where it's like you are in the right help spot, but that is a long closeout for you. Like you're very good defensively, but that team is gonna get it right away. So just those little things, just clean up type beats. So I think with reps, you'll see the growth.
There was a screenshot of Arike catching that ludicrous Paige Becker's pass in preseason the other day, and she just had the most gleeful look on her face. And that's my number one takeaway. Is I'm just excited for there to be excitement and joy in the Dallas Wings context. So that's good for the league. All right, we got two teams left. The California contingent is how we close, and we start with the Los Angeles Sparks. Another team I'm interested there. It feels like there's a lot of parallels between the Sparks and the Sky for the last, 5 years. Candace Parker obviously going from Los Angeles to Chicago, but there's just certain similarities here that I see in terms of two teams who are kind of at an interesting pivot point, so to speak, and are both kind of publicly speaking, and not just publicly with the PR push, but also literally from a front office perspective, the Sky traded the number 3 pick and the Sparks traded the number 2 pick. They proclaimed that they want Kelsey Plum at this point in her career over Dominique Malonga, or Olivia Miles was still a possibility at that time. And that's an interesting gamble to me because this team has a lot of really young talent. They also have some amazing vets, Dearica Hamby. Um, but it's a similar question that I had for the Sky. It's like, where are we on the timeline here? Because now you have Kelsey Plum and you are going for it. You've got Rakia Jackson in year 2, who already showed incredible promise. And just, the sky is the limit for her. You've got Cam Brink, who will work her way back over the course of the season. But what can we expect from her? Where do they fall on this timeline for you guys?
They're in a really interesting spot. Like they feel like a high, to go bounce off the similarities point, like they feel like a higher variance version of Chicago for me in this regard
Yeah.
because they have you have Kelsey and Dearica. Like you just have two all-stars who have history together that can already just kind of play off of each other.
Yeah.
So you have that. You have Rakia. Like I'm excited to see what Ray Burrell looks like this year with just a firm, you are getting 25 plus minutes a night type beat. I want to see where that lands. And they have interesting pieces, but like, I also can see a world in which teams are like, well, how about we just blitz Kelsey and we help off of insert player here and let's see what you do. And so that's where like it wouldn't surprise me if the Sparks start the season like 7-3 or something. And then in the next 10 games, what happened to the Sparks? Or the reverse, where they're trying to figure some stuff out on offense and then they hit their stride. And it's like, oh, this can be a really good team. Like, I don't know what to do with the Sparks yet outside of fan of KP, fan of Hamby, fan of Rakia, fan of Ray Burrell. I'm glad that Ozzie Sims is just on a team, so we don't have to do this dance for like the eighth straight year. It feels like to where, hey, you did good things. We literally cannot keep you because of the hardship rules, but we love what you provided. Um, they have solid pieces, like a full season. Well, I guess we'll see if it's going to be a full season of Azrae Stevens starting, but a fully healthy campaign for her at the very least. And the blend of drives and shooting and some of the athleticism that she has, the defensive versatility that she has, like I'm excited for what that can look like and what that can open up for the Sparks offensively. They're a ball of clay for me. Like I don't know. Like that's a bad podcast answer, but like I don't know what to do with them yet.
Hmm. Tell me more. Is this a lack of a defensive foundation? Because it's a team that has size and versatility in playmaking. So what's the holdup, big dog?
They do. Like I am a little, not even a little. I am worried about what the defense is going to ultimately be.
Aha!
But again, like there's room for that to be solved relatively early. And as Owen mentioned, like Cam Brink is going to return at some point. Like that is going to be, I would imagine, sometime in July or sometime after that. So they do have to get past this opening portion with the Commissioner's Cup and all that good stuff. But we get to the end of the season, and now it is just Cam, De'Erica, Rakia, Ray, and Kelsey. It's like, oh, that's a lot. And now we're bringing Azrae Stevens off the bench, and she can also close games for us if we need her to. And it's like, oh, this is skilled size that they can sprinkle in, especially if we're going to have legitimate Rakia at the three lineups. It's like, oh, this is a lot. What do we do with this? Like, they seem like a team that if they do make the playoffs this year and you have that 3 game setup, it's just like, oh, they can now just game plan a defense and we can just poke at a particular matchup. We're going to make your life difficult because we have skilled size somewhere that you do not.
I was going to ask Nekias, when have you ever heard of a team having a bunch of skilled size with versatility around a high scoring guard?
Seems like an interesting concept, huh?
Has it ever won anything, Nekias?
I'd have to check the archives, check out some former WNBA winners, and we'll see. But anything come to mind for you, Steve?
Nope. I think for me, I think I just like the fact that they are trying to play Hamby, Azrae, and Rakia together because you're gonna have the talent, so you might as well play all the sides together and hope for the best. Ray Burrell getting this opportunity is fun after Unrivaled, and then what does this version of Kelsey Plum look like? I imagine it's gonna be she's up there on the revenge tour, although it's not revenge because that narrative probably shouldn't exist. But it's also like, hey, I'm not mad at them. I'm mad at y'all for the way y'all talking about me. So, you know what I mean? It doesn't take much. So I guess for me, I want to see how do they kind of find their rhythm offensively. Preseason, it felt like a lot of transition and pick and roll, which is fine. But like, what sets are you running? What movement are you running? If you have these players like De'Erica and Azrae and Kelsey Plum and Rakia who can all get downhill, what does that open up for you? What type of shots are you making? Are you taking threes? Are you putting pressure on teams that way? Like, it's just, I need to see it. The Sparks are probably high on my list. I need to see it. Probably the Sparks and the Mercury are my top 2. I got to see what your real attempt is before I can really grasp it. Dallas is up there too. But I think I like the potential as far as the talent they can put together, especially as Cam Brink gets healthy. And then I'm intrigued by the bench, the rotation. What's that guard play look like? You know, you mentioned Ozzie Sims, Aaron McDonald. They'll go. You know, does Sarah Ashley Barker help? Like, I'm intrigued by the Sparks, but it feels like they're gonna have to be the offense first a little bit, and then you're surprised we can defend, as opposed to we defend and we can kind of score.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why you bring in Lynn Roberts, right? Like to make that all go. And I think that the fact that their bigs can all space also is what's really exciting about somebody like a Rakia in year 2 is that they can still get her those post ups. You know, they can still you said not quite a revenge tour for Kelsey, but it's almost like this is her she wanted to prove herself that she could kind of go out on her own, run a team, and be the face of a franchise. And it feels like the proper arc in her career right now. and having a friendly face in Dearica there. It's narratively so much of this team makes sense, especially when you talk about adding Cam Brink back in June, July, whenever she's fully healthy out there. Uh, but yeah, in my head, I'm with you, Steve. I'm like, this is a lot of like disparate pieces that I can't fully get there until I see what the vision is going to be, is how it actually plays out. Because I've got a lot more questions than I do answers, I feel like right now.
Yeah. It doesn't help that like the opening preseason game was against a team that is literally trying to figure out what they are. So it's just like I don't know how much to even take from this yet.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, let's talk about the Valkyries. Let's close out by talking about the Valkyries. Um, Preseason is mostly meaningless. Obviously, it is. It's not. It's meaningless from a wins and losses perspective, not from what can your takeaways be about scheme or about personnel, about lineups. But for a franchise that's brand new, there's just going to be only so much you can glean from it. One thing I did note is across those two games, they were 19 for 71 from three. That is 27% on 35 and a half attempts across those two games. Um, so this brings us back to the conversation we had in part one and have had several times about deploying personnel versus running a system. And there are different conversations to be had about the front office and the composition of this roster if they're trying to be a team from day one that's trying to compete. And it's there was a lot of talk about just what the expansion process looks like and whether there were promises that were not kept or assurances that whatever. They were not happy that talented players did that a bunch of players did not just decide, okay, I'm going to make the Bay Area my home because you asked me to. So that seems to have changed their approach a little bit in this offseason. But
Mhm.
there are pieces there. And I think what's fun about this team is that they got to pilfer a fan favorite from every other squad around the WNBA. So there's just generally going to be, I think, a little bit of a grace period because people will be like, in New York, they're like, I'm not rooting against KT or, Minnesota, Kate Martin going from Vegas or Chichi Zandalicini going from Minnesota. Like people have good feelings for so many of these players. But yeah, I guess my question is this just going to be a team that is going to flip a coin and hope that the variance goes in their favor with some of the shot selection on a given night? Are they going to hope that it's a back to back or a long cross country trip and they can catch somebody looking ahead on their schedule? What is the game plan on a nightly basis for Golden State to try to win some basketball games?
I think for Golden State, it's going to have to start with their defense because they are a pretty active bunch. At least that's one of my early takeaways from what I've seen from them. I think to the 3 point portion, like I've been trying to parse out how much of this is we want to get threes up, like we want to establish, we want to be a high 3 point team, and how much of this is some of these players that we brought in either aren't good 3 point shooters or are hesitant 3 point shooters. And we at the very least want to establish in the preseason, if you're open, take it. Like you pointed out the numbers through the first two games, like I don't think they're going to average 35 during the regular season. But like, is this more like Veronica is okay if you take 3 or 4 threes in a game, more than we have a team wide edict to take 10 threes a quarter?
Mhm.
And so I think if you can kind of establish like this is what we want to do defensively, this is the level of activity we want to have defensively, these are our help principles, etc. And offensively, we want to move the ball, we want to go side to side. If you are open, please take it. Because we don't have the pure superstar that draws two on the ball all the time, we can't afford catch and hold. We kind of have to take whatever openings that we have. And like that leads to it is okay if you take this three versus again, like we just want to be a team that takes 40 or 50. Like I don't know if that's going to be them.
Compete. You got to start with competing. You got to compete and fly around and give your best offensively. They just have to. I think they will, but I think that's establishing the culture that we're here. We're going to be, I don't want to use the word annoying, but we're going to get after it. And if we catch you and you don't believe in us, like we can sneak up on you. So I think that's probably just the ethos they have to have. We get to stop, push it, go, run in transition. Let's play together, move the ball. They don't have the luxury of having player X or system X to kind of open things up. So they just got to go out there and play basketball. So that's why it's intriguing, because you're going to have nights where Julie Van Loo's making plays all over the place. You're going to see Tip Hayes doing great things. They have wings and defenders. They can get after you. So it's going to be kind of a group effort, I think, to kind of start the culture of Golden State. So hopefully next time they go and knock on some doors and ask, hey, what do you think of the Bay? We did this. I think you fit into this. So I think that's kind of got to be the goal for him.
I love that. Also, like to Miles's point, just from a fan perspective, I'm thinking about Veronica Burton, and like she's got all of New England behind her, Massachusetts especially, Dallas, Golden State. It's going to be such a fun mixture of just a general excitement where the results aren't really going to matter out of the gate, and if they are poor, like again, it's about the compete, it's about the process, etc.
And they had 17,000 fans at a preseason game. Yep. So the excitement is there. And I think that the excitement, especially year one, it's not going to wear off this season, even if the product is not quite there yet.
And not to do the annoying thing, but like I'm watching Warriors Wolves, and they're talking about moving the NBA playoff game to like make way for the WNBA opener, which is, not lost upon me, the significance of that from how things have always been. Any closing thoughts before I close us out here with, I got to give you guys your flowers, but first, any closing basketball thoughts?
Nekias, you ready for Kelsey Plum, MVP candidate?
Hey, if the sparks are good enough, sure. At the very least, she look at the face from Steve. At the very least, when this push happens, she will be the unquestioned best player on her team.
So true.
All right.
Well, I want to thank you guys. Miles can attest, like I basically daily get frustrated with the state of basketball media, or like the attitude on Twitter to a lot of things. And everything that is frustrating to me about the basketball landscape, you guys represent the opposite of that. And when we had you guys on last year for the previews, we had you on individually, and that was so great. And we asked each of you about what you appreciate most about podcasting with the other. But it's such a joy to get you guys on together. And I think I speak for all of us in the WNBA community that like it's just such a joy getting to listen to you guys, interact with you guys. The chemistry is so beautiful. I feel like we've just been laughing and chopping it up for 2.5 hours here. And nothing could be easier as a gig for a podcast host, and I'm sure Miles agrees, than having you guys on as guests. Like I get to sit back, listen, learn, laugh. It's such a joy. So I couldn't be more appreciative of you two, both just what you guys put out into the world and then the time that you've given us.
I do have to amend one thing. We have not been chopping it up for 2.5 hours. It was an hour yesterday and an hour and a half today. Don't let Owen tell you otherwise. No, but I just wanted to agree with everything. I want to say ditto. This is why I didn't want him to go first, but really appreciative of just everything that you guys have done and really embraced us in this space as well. Getting to talk to you and just lean on your expertise. I can't tell you how many stats I've stolen from you guys without credit. So thank you. I guess now I'm saying thank you for that.
Not the backlog. What the?
Just because I don't know. I'm like, I heard this thing, and then I'm told, oh yeah, that was just on the Dunker spot last week, and I'm like, that's where I heard it. Okay, but I'm really.
The guy's about to send a strongly worded DM as soon as we're done recording.
I'm gonna send a strongly worded thank you. Come on.
I just really wanted to echo Owen and just saying thank you to you guys and for making the time and for just keeping it 100% basketball. And that just is not happening enough in this space on the NBA side. So yeah, Thanks. And if you guys are not already listening to the Dunker, so I don't know why I'm like looking beyond the camera, like I'm not directing this to the audience. If you guys are not already subscribed and listening to the Dunker Spot or pulling up on the playbacks, that's really a great way, especially the W rewatches that you guys do. I get to just learn a lot about basketball through your eyes. So just keeping on, keep on doing the work because we're all better for it. So thanks, guys.
Thank you for the kind words.
That was very kind. Wow. I don't know what to do with that. But no, I appreciate all of that. I appreciate what you two bring. Like again, we chop it up on here. We chop it off randomly offline as well. Should probably do that more often, honestly. And again, I'm good to get to do that with at least one of you this weekend.
Yeah.
But
Wow!
I got
Said
him.
all these nice things about you. You went with a got him.
Got
I would have done it
him.
if you didn't. So
Oh man.
Jeez.
Hey, listen, I hit Owen with so many story jokes. Like I have to balance it out. 'Cause I just love talking to this dude. So like I gotta, we gotta balance the scales a little bit. Now I have to get some slander, and then we're gonna give it to the love. That's how it works. You know what I mean?
Or you can
Like-
just do the love part. That's very easy.
Oh, but no, in all seriousness, I really do appreciate how welcoming y'all have been, how great you two have been for the space. Like the fact that so many people, fans, coaches, clearly, players, they all respect you. Like, I don't think that's a coincidence. The way that you go about it and the way that you lend your platform in an effort to learn and ultimately enjoy and love the game. Like, we need more of that. And so I do appreciate what y'all bring to the space genuinely. And it's always a pleasure to share the platform with y'all.
It's authentic, it's genuine, it's real, and it's much appreciated. So I won't piggyback too much on what Nekias said, because I'm trying to pivot from what he did to Owen. But thank you all for doing what you do.
Thank you guys. Happy WNBA season. Can't wait.